There are over 20,000 registered carriers in the state of Texas. It's oversaturated. If people are getting in thinking that they're just going to go buy a truck off the side of the road, make some money real quick, not do it the right way, it hurts our industry. It hurts our image. It hurts who we are.
You guys were named like the most diverse trucking company in Houston, Texas, right?
We have years and years and years of combined experience, whether it be an intermodal or flatbed heavy haul, hot shot. We have people that know what they're doing.
How did the people here receive you, being a young woman coming into the building, and they're like, hey, who's this young?
Yeah.
She don't know what she's talking about, right? Tell me about that.
Oh gosh, that was hard. Everybody thought I was just the granddaughter. My last name was King, and I was here because Rex and Marilyn started the business. And I will tell you, I did have a chip on my shoulder when I got here. It was like I graduated from college. Nobody in my family had graduated from college. I knew a bunch, but it wasn't until I started sitting with our people and understanding, well, these people know so much about our business, and like I can learn so much if I just sit back and listen and just keep my mouth shut. Sometimes that's the best thing that you can do, is just listen. It was hard. It was hard coming in the business because, you want so much for people to accept you because your grandparents have built something so great. But you have to earn the respect. If you don't earn the respect on your own, you're never going to have it. Right.
Tell me about the operation a little bit, about like kind of like the day-to-day, what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so we have multiple divisions. Our business really started in the intermodal sector, and that's like containerized freight, things like that. And then, it transitioned to vans. So intermodal, it's still one of our largest divisions, and we service a lot of freight coming in and out of the port of Houston. And we have, our divisions are segmented, they're siloed. So we have a manager that runs that division, and then we have drivers that service that division. We have our flatbed heavy haul division. Flatbed is like standard freight, legal freight, but then we also do really specialized things, and that's kind of what we're known for. And that operation runs on its own. And then we have hot shot. And all of it has to work together. We all have to communicate. It becomes difficult to manage so many things, like being really diverse, and you're not focused on one thing. Your mind has to change quite often, but operationally, I think that, again, if you have the right people in place that know what they're doing, that changes everything. And I think the thing about me personally is I will never expect my people to do something that I don't know how to do. And I think that I would get into intermodal. I sat over with the dispatchers early on for flatbed heavy haul. I'm not a driver, of course. I wish I was sometimes. I'm actually studying to get my CDL, but I think just being in the middle of it and rolling up your sleeves and getting dirty.
Got it. Let's kind of go into the different divisions and how you kind of operate them. So the intermodal, is that more so like a lot of direct customers that you guys have had over the years? How does that kind of work?
It ebbs and flows. I see on your podcast and like what you have going on, there's a lot of freight forwarders. There's a lot of logistics companies. So those kinds of companies, they're our partners in this industry. They get a lot of freight that we would not otherwise have the opportunity, but we also go direct to the shipper. So we see both ways of getting it. And it's, pricing it the right way from the get-go, making sure that the customer, whether it's a freight forwarder or direct to the shipper, they understand how you're pricing things and what the expectations are. So I think our customer base it changes based on freight. Some people more frequently go to freight forwarders to have their freight moved, and some people ship it themselves.
Yeah. What's happening now in the ports, in the industry for you guys?
Gosh, the ports right now in Houston, like today specifically, it's really slow. I mean, but overall, understanding where the freight's coming from. So Atlanta port can be really, really hot and heavy, or Port of Houston, Los Angeles freight could be moving from Los Angeles to Houston, just understanding where the freight's going to come from and making sure that you understand how those ports are working and what the expectations are, because you have all kinds of things that can happen in the ports. You can have demurrage, wait time, if you don't get the containers out in time, booking numbers. Like there's just so many things operationally that can mess up that can really throw off a whole project. You don't get your containers there in time for to meet the vessel bookings, then the vessel leaves.
Right.
So there's lots of things operationally that it takes to make sure you understand how the ports work.
We are here live at OTR Solutions HQ. I'm here with my partner, Jonathan. Man, listen, factoring is an integral part of the transportation industry. Why is factoring important?
Absolutely, Rahmel. In this economy, in this market, cash flow is king. Cash flow is the key to growth. If you have a young trucking company, or if you've been in the industry for years and you want to take that business to the next level, we're absolutely a company that can help. So I hope you'll give us a call today. Let us know what we can do to help you out.
Get the rest and roll with the best. Let's go. When you say slow, if you compare it to like what's normal for you guys, like how much are you guys like down right now compared to what's typical?
I don't have an exact number for you, but I think we saw a tremendous boom in retail during the pandemic, right?
Right.
And
everybody was eating. Like,
hey,
crazy.
What can I buy? Like, how fast can Amazon get here?
Right.
And that has slowed down. And I think, and if you watch consumer spending and, signs of recession, all of those things, that's true. It is, and we feel it. We have to understand that we will ebb and flow with the markets, and we have to prepare for those times.
When that happens, what do you do to kind of combat that or circumvent it? Or you just like kind of it's slow, it is what it is, or are you like reallocating the guys and somewhere else? How do you work around that?
So there's several different things. You have to focus your sales team. Like you are going to have, if your one division is hot and heavy because they just got awarded a project, you have to know very quickly, looking at data and your financials, that they need to shift their focus and direct them. So I think that's the first thing. And then making sure that your drivers are meldable. If they have expertise in another area, like if we have an intermodal driver who's used to hauling in the port, but he can also haul steel, like let's see what the steel division has going on, or let's see what the flatbed division has going on to make sure that we can feed our drivers, because the drivers aren't fed, we're not fed.
That's right.
And we got to make sure that they stay busy. So it's really, I think it boils down to data. Like in technology, using the information that's at your fingertips and using it wisely to react to whatever situation you're in.
How do you get that data?
So before I got here, my grandparents were still like operating on green bar paper. Do you even know what green bar paper is?
No. Can you please expound?
I mean, I will send you a picture.
Okay.
It's like a ledger, and they would literally write in their orders. My grandmother would keep the books on ledger paper. She would have somebody input into the computer, obviously, at some point, but it was very antiquated.
Right.
So now it's like, how much information can we get? And how, like, the more information that we enter into the system, commodities hauled, length of time, number of miles, how much fuel, like all of those things, extracting that data in a way that's useful to be able to react to it. It's like, it can save a business.
Yeah.
It just understanding the information that you're inputting and what's your output. How can you get that information in a way that it's useful for me, for my team, for all of us?
Are you using like specific like tools for that, like software or? Okay.
Yeah. Trimble is, and I'm sure you've heard of Trimble.
I've heard of Trimble.
Okay. So Trimble, and then there are other like different add-ons that you can do with those programs. I don't know the names of them specifically, but different add-ons that you can use to procure the
Like
data
plugins?
and get it out.
Okay. Got it. So you guys are just, like you said, analyzing the data. Okay. Talk to me about some of your more specialized divisions and why it's important to have those kind of specialty, kind of niche freight.
Yeah. So specialized freight means different things to different people.
Okay.
For us, it means it's really heavy, it's really big, and it's going to be difficult to haul.
What's an example of that?
So I would say the biggest thing that we've ever done, the most cool thing, I guess, is the 747 that is now sitting at NASA as their like museum.
Nice.
And we don't do that so much anymore. We've kind of scaled back in that area, but
How much would they pay on a load like that?
oh boy. Oh man, I can't even begin to tell you. It's that took 6 months of planning.
6
before
months
us.
to plan?
Before us.
Before you even got involved?
Before we even got involved. And
How did you get involved?
So we had some friends that were freight forwarders, and we did it partially as a donation to help the cause. But obviously we couldn't afford to do all of it as a donation. So just knowing people, relationships. I mean, that's what it's built on, relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, tell me about some other things like that. So 747s, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty big, right? Then you have like mods, which are big powerhouses to power plants. I mean, there's lots of big things. That operation is so different than intermodal or anywhere else in this business because it takes planning, and people. And I hate to say anything bad about anybody, but there are people who will do it the right way, who are rogue haulers, who are just going to load that stuff up on the trailer and roll it down I-10 and hope that they don't get caught.
Right.
But if you're doing it the right way, it takes a lot of planning, working with the counties, working with the city, understanding what permits you have to have, what roads you can haul on at what time. Because if you think about it, you don't want a 3-lane piece of equipment rolling down I-10 at 4:00.
That's right.
Right. So takes a lot of planning, and then the drivers.
That's the key.
Oh, gosh. If you don't have good drivers to haul that stuff, you might as well just hang it up, because we have some really great drivers that know what to do and how to do it. And if they don't know what's going on, we could get permits right. We could plan it all correctly. But if the driver does not know what's going on and he's not thinking intentionally and not thinking safely and, really have his eye on the ball, then the whole thing's going to go off. So, so drivers, dispatchers, permit coordinators, managers, you have field supervisors, you have escorts, you have people that are lifting up wires to make sure you can get underneath things. There's lots of things that take to do those really specialized loads. Got it.
About how many loads like that are you moving on a regular basis?
I mean, it's all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. I'd say, we used to be in where we would haul a lot heavier freight. And I'd say that the Houston market has changed a little bit, like oil and gas. You're seeing a shift a little bit. So what the commodity that we are hauling is not necessarily the same, but there's still really big stuff being hauled.
Making sure that your compliance is on point is an integral part of any trucking related business. Today I stopped by my friends over at FLEETDRIVE 360 to talk about what they're building to make sure that you can run a successful trucking company.
And it's everything from the minute you decide you want to hire somebody through maintaining all of your FMCSA compliance documents for ongoing fleet or owner-operator truck business. You've got a driver hiring and recruiting module where you'll create driver qualification files, import digital documents. You've got a drug and alcohol module where you can schedule pre-employment drug tests and manage an ongoing testing pool. We've got an accident registry so you can keep your mandated accident logs and even schedule follow-up drug testing for post-crash. We've got vehicle maintenance logs so you can not only maintain the compliance status of your vehicles, but also upload your work orders and compliance-related documents so you're audit ready when they come in. We've got a document repository, fancy words for digital cloud storage of any document that you want, not just necessarily the compliance documents, anything related to your business, post-crash videos, performance evaluations. And then finally, you've got the dashboard. And the dashboard's the most important part. You can close your eyes and glance at our dashboard, open them, glance at the dashboard, and immediately know whether or not you're compliant or not, both on a driver, company, and vehicle level.
It's one-stop shop for all your compliance needs.
Got it. You guys are in oil and gas too, right? Mm-hmm. Frac sand?
No sand.
No sand?
No sand.
What do you guys do?
We were in crude hauling.
Okay.
We were in the bulk liquid space for a little bit, and we exited at the right time.
What happened?
So I don't know if you remember the oil boom for the South Texas area. I think it was 2012. We had some friends in the industry who were playing and trying to capitalize on that oil boom, and we got in. We started hauling crude at the right time and kept our ear to the ground the whole time because it was something that we had never done before. It was truly the biggest risk that Palletized had taken since I'd come on board. It was like, what are we doing? We've never done this before. Like,
is there risk because of the unknown factors, or what's the risk about it?
Commodity that we've never hauled. We'd never been in the liquid space. It was equipment that we had never used before. It was in an area. We're Houston. I mean, we dispatch from Houston. That's what we love. That's what we know.
Right.
We'll go anywhere, but that's where our home base was. We had to open a terminal there. So it was just a lot of things that we had never done before. We had to figure it out very quickly to capitalize on it. But then keeping your ear to the ground to understand, all right, this is not what it was when we started. It's starting to decline. We need to think about exiting. And we did it at the right time.
Got it. So when you take on a project like that, I'm sure you have to obviously allocate a lot of resources to it, and it's a lot of money and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of because you're diversifying,
right?
And you don't really know where it's going. Okay. And you have a hot shot division also, right? Tell me about that. When did you guys get into hot shots?
So we've always kind of had hot shot. It's just been kind of hit or miss, but I'd say for the last 10 or so years, it's not like a huge service that we offer, but we offer it to make sure that if a customer comes to us, we have a one-stop shop. They don't have to go book flatbed, van, intermodal freight with us and then go to a hot shot carrier to get that service. So it runs pretty smooth. Our fleet is super small. It's nothing big, but it supports our customers and their needs when they need it.
Got it. Tell me about your fleet. Equipment. How do you guys look at that? Do you have older equipment? Do you keep new equipment? What is your methodology around that?
Yeah. So my grandfather would tell you that I squeak when I walk, meaning I'm so tight with money. It's not even funny. So I am not of the opinion that you need to turn your assets every 3 years, every 5 years. That's not how I run our business. I try to maximize the usage of our equipment and make sure that it's obviously safe and roadworthy, all of those things. But maximizing the use of those assets to make sure we're getting the biggest bang for our buck. And sometimes it goes south on you real fast because obviously those assets take a lot to maintain. But we have around 250 trucks right now owned and leased. And then we have about 420 to 430 pieces of equipment for trailers.
Okay.
And we buy and we sell. I mean, you got to think about how much you're spending on your assets, spending on the trucks. If the truck is costing you more than you actually paid for it, then you probably have an issue and you need to look at all of the expenses. But you have to think about, tires that are an expense that you're going to have regardless of what truck it is.
Right.
You're going to have PMs regardless of how old the truck is. So understanding your cost and what that looks like.
Got it. What about when you're looking to scale? How do you guys look at scale? Are you always adding new equipment, or do you try to just stay within a certain range, or how do you look at that?
So my goal here is not to be the biggest trucking company in town. So I don't necessarily want to I don't have a goal of I want to buy 30 trucks this year so I can get to 280. I want to make sure that our assets that we have are safe and roadworthy. So we replace what we need to replace. And then if we can add, we absolutely add. But it also depends on freight volumes. If we don't have the freight coming in, a truck sitting is the worst thing you can have because problems are going to go wrong. It's not going to it's not going to be good for the business. You're going to be spending money to get the asset running every single time it's been sitting.
Yeah.
So we don't look to scale necessarily. I think it depends on freight volumes. And if we have something that we have a need for, then we're ready to jump at it.
Got it. You're the CFO, Chief Financial Officer.
Yes.
So what is your job, if you could put that into words to simplify it for somebody?
There are no words. There are no words.
I'm sure you wear many hats, right?
Yes.
Because you're not just hired to be this is a family business,
right?
But in your role, what are you primarily looking at? What kind of data points? What kind of KPIs? What's important to you?
Yeah. So I would say that my role is technically probably president. and I'm not taking anything away from my uncle who has that title, but from a day-to-day perspective, I'm running the business, and it's not just from a financial perspective. So I have a controller who is really, really great. So she's looking at the financial aspect and the KPIs of what are our assets costing, what is our run rate per mile, what's our revenue per mile, things like that. Gross and net, like where's your overhead trending? Are you having a huge increase in fleet maintenance costs? And so how it works in our organization is she compiles all of that information, and then we review it to understand, okay, well, we have an issue here and this is how we're going to address it. So then operationally, I can go back in with our team and say, hey, this is what we're seeing. And this is how we need to adjust to it. And sometimes it's a conversation, and sometimes it's not a conversation. It's, hey, this is what we're doing. We have no choice because we have to react to what's happening.
Can you give me an example of how that, like what that would look like in real life?
Yeah, I can give you a small example. Like 2020, downturn was happening. And when you go through your financials, you should obviously be looking at, in my opinion, every line item. What is everything doing? How is it trending? And if you have things trending up, you need to look at it. And one thing that we were seeing was like truck washes. Truck washes were out of control. And it's because we had our truck wash vendor open to our drivers that they could go at any time. They could go 5 times a week. They could go 1 time a month. And we had no say-so, no control over that. But we quickly saw that when our revenue was decreasing, that cost was staying the same. It wasn't trending down like it should have been. So just flat out saying, all right, truck washes are cut off. We're going to have a schedule for this. This is what it's going to look like, and reacting to it. There was no discussion about it. It was, we have to do this to make sure our business stays good.
That makes a lot of sense. What are some other places where you see waste?
So I'd say equipment repairs, you have to be really careful. That's one, understanding the age of your assets and if it's worth fixing. And if it's not, then having a bigger discussion about it. Overhead, if your freight volumes are decreasing, what does your overhead look like for people? And that is the biggest hang up here is people, because
that's the hardest part.
Oh,
right?
It's the hardest part. Oh my gosh.
Because your people love you, man. I can tell just by walking around. It's like I can tell the culture here is very family oriented.
I appreciate that. You might not have asked the right people. No, I'm just kidding. I
gotta walk around a little bit more.
Yeah, I hope they love me.
Yeah.
But just making sure you're in line. Like if you have 200 drivers, but you have 150 office people, something's wrong. Like it does not take 150 people to support 200 drivers. So I think just understanding what that balance looks like, and there's ratios that you can look at. Is it 1-6 or is it 1-8? There are different things that you can measure to understand, okay, or if you increase your technology, you're going to have a little bit higher technology expense. You might decrease headcount, but how is that going to better serve your organization?
Yeah.
Or I really need a person in this place to support our drivers, to give them that good feeling. Yeah, it might be more efficient with technology, but understanding how your overhead plays into that.
Yeah. How do you think that happens? Like to where you do too much hiring, or you get too much, like how do you think that happens over time?
I think that, when business is booming, you're not really looking at all of that. You're making money, things are going good, and it's like, hey, we're going to make sure we're staffed up, things are going really good. And then you're like, oh, deer in the headlights, like freight's not here right now. We've got to adjust to that.
Right.
And again, it's data. You got to go
sure.
back to the data to see what's happening. And if you are seeing that your accounts are looking bad and you're, whatever data point you want to look at, it's going to tell you something.
And now a quick segment from our sponsor, Role by ADP. So we're here with Jessica King from Palletized Trucking, and we're going to talk about payroll and your employees a little bit.
Let's do it.
All right. As you know, small businesses are the lifeblood of the U.S. economy and account for 99.7% of all employers. As small businesses continue to scale, their impact strengthens as they hire and build more connections within the community. How did you educate yourself about the different employee types that you need to scale your business?
A lot of school, a lot of college, and then actually getting in the middle of the business and then taking classes. Like you don't realize all of that stuff that's going on until you can read what you want in a book, but actually putting it into real life. So, and then going back and learning more about it. So
applied knowledge.
Yeah.
Right.
Applied
cool.
knowledge. Oh, that's a good one.
What features would help you smooth out the process of onboarding employees to payroll?
Ooh, workflows. If there was like a workflow that said, hey, your employee's in this stage, and working you through all stages and everything that needs to happen in each stage, and like making sure that there's like checklists and things that make sure that the people that are hiring feel comfortable and the people that are being hired are comfortable and they know where they're at in the stage.
Thanks to our segment sponsor, Roll by ADP. Truck and Hustle listeners get their first 3 months free. After that, pay only $24 per month and $5 per employee. Check out rollbyadp.com/truckandhustle. What's been the most challenging part of your journey if you kind of look back through the years? What was a difficult time for you, or a situation that was really difficult for you?
Goes back to the people. So I gave you one example of crude. Our crude oil division. We started it, wrote it out. It was booming. It was great. But then we had to make the hard decision to shut it down. And what does that mean? That means you're impacting people.
Yeah.
And you're impacting people's lives. So that was really hard, making that decision. And then that's not the first and only time that we've had to do that. I told you we were doing super heavy for a while, super heavy haul. And the market was we were some of the first family-owned business in Houston that was doing that. But the market got super saturated with a lot of international companies coming into Houston and offering that service, and they could do it far cheaper than we could as a family-owned business. They had more capital, it just looked a lot different. So again, ear to the ground, understanding what the market was bearing, what your customers are telling you, what the rates are doing. Ear to the ground and said, hey, we got to pull out of this, and we got to make the most of it. So again, it was the people. It was like, here we are again, making a decision that's impacting people's lives. And you don't ever want to do that. You don't want to impact them in a negative way. You want it to be on the up and up.
Is there ever a time where you have a number where you'd want to sell Palletized Trucking?
My grandfather would always tell me everything's for sale. If you were to ask me, is this business for sale?
If you twisted, confused, or stuck about trucks, don't be dumb. This is the place to come. Truck and Hustle. Let's go!